Welcome everyone to Mail Fuzz TV. I am Peter and I'm joined by Tara to talk about Quantum Leap, Season 1, Episode 11. It's called Leap, Die, Repeat, which is actually quite a nice little reference to Live, Die, Repeat, which is not really the title of Edge of Tomorrow, but whatever, close enough. Anyway, yeah.
I enjoyed the title also, yeah.
Spoilers for the episode. We'll get into it. This is a time loop episode. Or is it?
What?
Honestly, I'll get it out of the way. When they assumed, because I think Addison says something, Ben, once we realise we're looping, Addison says something to Ben, hey, but you've got all the time in the world to figure this out, because it's a time loop, right? And I immediately went, but he's switching, like the gimmick of this is that he's actually switching who he's leaping into on each leap, or each loop, if you leap/loop, right? And part of me was like, well, yeah, but can he go into the same one again, or is this like once he's done all the people? So that was the first thought I had. So
yeah, it was a little bit annoying that nobody brought it up.
Yeah, no one considered that until obviously it was time to like, oh no, it's actually we're in more danger than we thought because he's on a limited, amount of leaps. But hey, yeah, that's it though. Fun episode. Easily the best one in a while, I would say. Oh, Tara does not agree with that statement.
I am a sucker for this gimmick. I love a time loop. I think I said last time that I was excited for it because that kind of storytelling almost always works. Like even in that terrible Twilight Zone reboot, like there was the one episode that we both really thought was quite good was the time loop episode because it's just a gimmick that works. It's fun. I found this one to be like okay. Like I like the twist of each time he resets, he's in a different character, and it's like a new leap.
It made it unique for this show to do it that way. Yeah. Yes,
I thought that was an even more interesting gimmick. But the actual like story of what was happening, I thought was just kind of okay. I actually found myself getting a little bored about it, which is not a thing that I usually find in both like Quantum Leap and in these types of stories of time loops.
What I will say actually, 'cause I do think this was a fun episode, but what I will say is early on the first time he's the general in the first time, right, when he first and that's what we saw at the end of the last episode. That's the character he was in. One of the things that he notices is he's going into the control room for this nuclear power plant or this test nuclear reactor. Is there's a can that's spilled on the ground and that's like focused on. And my mind went, oh, that's the first thing, because in all time loop stories, in Happy Death Day, it's like the walk outside the college dorm and all the things that happen outside. Groundhog Day, it's I'm walking down the street and all the things that happen. There's been episodes of Legends of Tomorrow have done this. There's been episodes of numerous things, right? These are just the ones that are springing to head. Obviously, Edge of Tomorrow that I already mentioned. There's like a set list of things that always happens that the main character will start to predict because they're going through the day over and over again. But what's so weird about this is that after that you see that one can that's spilled on the ground, there's not anything else. It's actually very light. I mean, I think, he hears like the reporter lady like correct her name, and we hear that a few times, and we know that JFK is on the TV making a speech, but by and large, there's not all these series of little things, and it's not just because of the condensed time, because I've seen TV episodes do this. Legends of Tomorrow being the one that I just mentioned. That Twilight Zone episode, it was maybe a little longer than a 42-minute episode, but it wasn't by much, maybe 50 minutes, and it still managed to have that quality to it, So
yeah, I don't know. I guess it would have been more fun to have more of those gimmick things, the things that just repeat each time that don't get annoying because we know like that Ben is getting annoyed by it, and that's the fun thing to watch is their reaction.
Oh yeah, for sure, yeah.
Like there's a moment where he goes, yeah, it's like a science fiction novel. But even that moment, I was like, oh yeah, I guess he did say that in one of the other loops, but I don't really remember that being a big thing.
That said, my favorite laugh of this show happened in this episode, and it is very much a thing because of the time loop. And it's one of my favorite things in most time loop stories is that eventually they've looped enough that they're not impressed by it anymore, and they'll do something knowing that no one will remember it. So in Happy Death Day, for example, she decides to just go out naked on one of them because, like, hey, who cares? No one's going to remember it, and like everyone reacts to it, and it's this funny moment, right? In this, I actually love that there's a scene where Ben's just sitting talking to Addison, and then at the end of the scene, the camera like swaps sides, and you see that everyone in the room's just staring at him, talking to no one, and like, what the hell are you doing? And he's like, just don't. I don't care. You're not gonna remember this in a minute. Shut up. Leave me alone. Like,
I did like that too.
That was a funny joke. That was a funny scene.
Yeah, I like that very much. I just am. I'm a little disappointed in the episode. I think. I'm starting to not feel the chemistry between Ben and Addison, or at least questioning if it was ever really there. I want to say that I think that might be like the biggest issue for me. It's just the Ben and Addison stuff.
That's interesting, because two of the things I liked about this episode were Ben and Addison related. You remember when like he first realizes that it was her that he was in love with, that was his girlfriend, and then this huge weight was lifted, and then the very next episode they were flirty, they were fun, like it was almost like they were like, you know, on a first date again, and I was so excited about it. I loved it. I thought, yes, this is what the show should be going forward. Like, sure, they can have some conflicts and stuff like that. That makes it fun, but I want it to be kind of silly. I want this, you know, that was like such a good thing a good turn that was made in the show. And now I feel like we've gone sort of back where like Addison, like there's one moment, you know, where she thinks, you know, Ben is gone, and she gives this horrific scream. And, you know, I did feel that. I thought that was a really good moment. That was one of the moments I was mentioning, is that when they legit think he's dead the first time the reactor goes off and like his life signs go away, her reaction to that is quite good.
It was very guttural, and it was like, oh, that was, I believed it. But then like to go from an explosion of emotion like that to just back to like regular Addison was a hard thing to take. Like, I just don't, she like goes to grab him and stuff when she sees him, which, by the way, she comes out of an elevator. Like, why? She's a hologram. Why does she have to wait for the elevator doors to open? But anyway, so like she comes out of the elevator and she sees him again, and he's alive. And they do this thing where they don't touch, like they just get up to each other and they like just touch him, and then use the effects to make the hologram thing come through. Like, why would she stop? You know,
it's a cost. It's nothing to do with her. It's just a cost prevent.
It can't be that costly, though, right? Like, to do a holograph effect for just for 1 second, like it wouldn't take very long. I just wish that they were more, that I think it was the Western episode where I want them to be that again. You know, I want them to be flirting. I liked it because Raymond Lee, I think, is really funny. And so when he gets to do funny stuff, like with Addison, I believe, like, okay, there's the chemistry. That's the relationship right there.
Well, which actually leads me to a moment I liked with him. It's not a big moment, but you know how I've been, like, I'm not complaining, but I've pointed out that this whole memory loss thing is very selective. Like, he's meant to forget all these big things, but he seems to reference a lot of things. It's like, wait, I thought your memory was gone. And I like that there's kind of like a meta joke poking at that in this episode, where he's talking about the plot of a couple of movies, and Addison's like, wait, like, you remember all these plots to all these movies that you've seen, but it took you 4 leaps to remember that you were in love with me. And
that was cute,
right? And you know, he sort of says sorry, and then there's like a thing written down on the notepad, and she's like, oh, what is this? Maybe this is a clue. And he's like, nah, it's just a movie. And she fires this look of like, you're in trouble look, like you're digging a deeper grave. And it's funny and relatable, because it's like, you know, like he's continuing to sort of re-emphasize the things she's starting to notice. Wait a minute, should I be annoyed at him because he couldn't remember me, but he's remembering all these obscure movie plots?
Yeah, I think that's kind of fun, and you know, that's kind of consistent with the original show too. Like, everything about Sam's personality seems to be there, except for like the things that he studied, or the main part of his life, which was like making the Quantum Leap project.
I think just on a chemistry level, though, it felt like a relatable like couple fight. It felt like you know, speaking specifically as a guy, I screw up and you get the look and you dig yourself a little bit deeper and you're like, okay, I'm going to have to try and get out of this, or I'm going to, like, it felt like that genuine kind of moment, and it came across to me well. And maybe you could read the coldness of, like, after that first is just being worried. Maybe that doesn't come across properly, where instead of feeling panicky that he's definitely going to die or that they were in trouble, because, well, this leads to a conversation she has with Magic, actually, where she talks about how, you know, obviously everything that she's went through today thinking he was dead was a big deal, but maybe the bigger problem with it is that she's realised that in some level, when Ben leapt away, that was almost like losing him in the first place, and that was kind of like a death, and maybe, like, I never really processed that, because he's technically still there and he could technically still come back,
but he's like a ghost, like that's what they say. And I think that was a really neat conversation, actually. I enjoyed that very much, but it was still like, but she still had that, like, really from the diaphragm scream when he died, so she definitely did see him as alive still. And to go from that to, like, well, I guess everything's fine. Like, I don't know. I feel like there should be a middle ground, you know, somewhere. Like, maybe she could be like, I just need I know, like, that Ben needs me right now. So, like, maybe she should be kind of bad at her job on this leap because she just can't quite wrap her head around, like, lose what she went through, you know? Or maybe, like, maybe she needs to depend more on, like, the other people to get her through the leap or something, you know? I don't know. Like, I just feel like there should have been a little bit more there for me to buy it, because I really want to love this show. I really do, and I do really like the show. I just, you know, I'm a fan, so, like, I just want it to be great.
I mean, I think most of the episodes have been flawed to some extent, and I think this one had more things right than flawed. You know, because I wasn't, like, super into the last, what, 2 episodes, maybe 3 episodes. I don't know. The break was in there as well, so it's hard to do. But I would say
2 breaks. So
yeah. But the 2 or 3 episodes we got earlier in the month, I think it was like 2 episodes we got before we went on break again. Like, I thought there were 2 of the weaker episodes, and there were some things I didn't like about those. And I still think that the little cliffhanger tease at the end of this one, which
it's so annoying.
It felt like it was the same thing. I feel like it's done this thing multiple times where a character says, in this case it's Janice, in the past it's been Ben saying I remember everything, but it's like, I'm going to tell you this one thing, da da da, roll credits, you'll find out next week. And I get that you want to have a cliffhanger for intrigue, but I feel like this is like the laziest way of doing it, is literally having a character say,
I mean, because it's gonna be someone we know, right? It's gonna be like Addison or something, so I'm getting, like, Red Angel vibes from Discovery season 2.
Oh, you think so? I was thinking it would be someone either new or someone that we didn't know by name yet, that we've maybe, like, the Leaper from the future or something like that.
Yeah, they really don't talk about him very much.
They really should talk about him more. I know. It's because actually there was a great line in this that I thought was Ben talked about it a bit afterwards, so it makes me feel less like I'm being smart here, but even as soon as he said it, where so the twist of the episode is that the scientist guy who's an enthusiast is the one who actually sabotages the plant because he's found out that it's going to be used to help develop nuclear weapons, which I already I don't like part of this. The part I don't like about this is I'm like, nuclear weapons already exist. What are you going to accomplish by destroying this one nuclear facility? Like, I
have a thought of where, like, I wanted this episode to go. Anyway, go ahead.
Even without like, I don't know, it felt stupid to me, because even without the future knowledge that Ben has, where it's like, yeah, everything's going to happen anyway, even in this time period, like Japan already had him. Like, Hiroshima and Nagasaki already. Like, what are you accomplishing?
We all watched Chernobyl a couple years ago. Okay, like, why would you think that it's safer to blow up a nuclear reactor than to let them just make some nuclear weapons? You know. But
the part I liked about this though, so his plan and motivations was stupid. Which honestly, the more I think about it, the more I can see why you don't like this episode that much. I think I like enough of it that doesn't bother me too much. But I can see why you don't like that.
I mean, there were parts that were fun, but like, I don't know. I just have problems with it.
But the line that he said that was interesting, or the thing that comes up, is he talks about how science or whatever technologies always ends up in the wrong hands. And I thought, oh, that's foreshadowing. This is about whoever's in the future who's got leaping technology. This is setting up, like, oh, that's literally what's going to happen, is that this quantum leap tech is going to end up in the hands of people that we can't trust in the future.
Probably for weapons or something.
Yeah. And Ben questions it and says, but are we the good guys? Like, maybe people coming back from the future will think we are actually the villains. Maybe we find out we're on the wrong side. I think that's a bit of a red herring just because he's a conscious guy and is worried about that. But I think more in terms of foreshadowing, it's like, no, that's literally the problem. And maybe the reason why he's trying to get someplace in the future is because he's trying to stop something. He's trying to stop like whatever they're going to use it for, and down the line. And I thought that was an interesting tease that was more interesting to me than Janice going, you know what? I am going to tell you something. I'm going to tell you a name who told Ben to leap originally.
You know what that reminds me of? I know it's like it's maybe not a great comparison, but like half of my brain is just Star Trek. So,
okay.
That's the only thing I can mine from.
I mean, to be fair, Star Trek probably has something somewhere that can be tied to some quantum leap ideas. There's a lot of episodes of Star Trek.
Yes, but like the thing that always annoyed me in like the golden age of Star Trek is like somebody will ask like Cisco, like Cisco, like there's I need to talk to you or something, and it's like, or like there's something going on, but they won't say what it is over the comm. Like Cisco has to go to the thing. Where like if he were the captain, he'd be like, well, what? Like, what is it? Am I going to go all the way over there? I'm not going to transport, so I'm just going to like walk through all these P-ways, like tell me what it is.
Yeah, it's really unnatural dialogue. You know, it's written in a way for the audience so that they hear like a tease of what it's going to be. But she would never actually say that.
But why wouldn't the name be the tease anyway? Like why that would be a cliffhanger, right? Like the best cliffhanger we've had in this show so far is the Leaper X. That was very exciting.
No, but because what they want to do is they want to set up the question so that the answer comes in theory the next episode. Although the show is completely effed with us before on this. The I Remember Everything cliffhanger turned out to be complete and utter bullshit. Like,
are we sure that's what he said, though? I mean, that's what I remember him saying, but I haven't actually looked back.
No, well, he did. He said something akin to that, because we definitely talked about it when he said it. On that episode when it was fresh in our heads, we talked about how this is a big deal. He's remembering like why he leaped or whatever. And then the next episode, it turned out to be the tiniest of like vague detail about it. And it was not like a full... It was like to save Addison, sure, but like... No, there's like that. You gave me nothing else.
Like, even if that episode ended with like, I remember the reason I leapt was to save you. That's still a cliffhanger,
Oh no, I agree.
It still would be satisfying.
No, it'd be more satisfying. That's the problem with this, is that this wants to end with, I'm going to tell you a name, the person who did blah 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 originally, right? And that line is so awkwardly written because no one would actually phrase it that way. If you were actually going to tell someone this information in the real world, let's say this was all real, Janice would go to Addis like, you know what? Since you've done this today and you've trusted me a little bit, I'm going to throw you a bone. And you would say the name, and then she would say, "Who's that?" And then she'd go, "That's who told Ben to leap originally." Cut. Right? That's your
interesting.
Moment, right? But instead they want to do the thing where it's the literal question and answer. They set up the question by telling us the explanation of who the person is or what they've done, and then you get the name next week. And I cannot I swear, if we start next episode and the information is literally just a name that we do not recognize, and therefore the cliffhanger feels kind of pointless because the important part was already uttered in the last episode, I'm going to be annoyed at the show for bait and switch writing, quite frankly.
They've already done that to us, so like, fool me once, I forgot my point, and it's warped.
You just casually dropping F-bombs. All right.
I haven't slept very well this
I've already messed up. I might as well just double down now.
That was barely. I don't even think I finished with the last.
That's fine. That's fine. I'm not even going to bother trying to find it to mute it. It's fine. We'll just. What else would you like to talk about in the episode?
I was kind of hoping that there was like a sixth character that was actually doing the bomb stuff that he would leap into, and that would be his last leap. It was like, oh, there's another person here all along that we didn't even know about. Maybe it would have been kind of a cheap way to do it, but I thought that would have been kind of, I don't know, kind of interesting. Like, oh, there's and there was actually hints of that person being there the whole time, you know. But because we were, instead of the scientist just blowing himself up for whatever.
For the world, for the future.
Yeah, for starting a nuclear meltdown.
For flying cars by the year 2000.
Oh, that actually didn't make me laugh too. I like that the idea that time travel is more or less science fiction than flying cars in this show.
Yeah, Ben rolls his eyes like, yeah, okay, sure. Yeah, flying cars by 2000.
Yeah, time travel. Maybe even flying cars.
I can't believe we've went this long and you've not mentioned Picardo yet.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Well, I mean, he wasn't like fun in this episode. He was just kind of like a guy, and he's always fun. So, I mean, it's always fun to see him because he's, you know, kind of an icon for science fiction fans.
Well, just to explain what we're talking about here, Robert Picardo is the actor playing the Doctor character in this, the one with the bow tie, and he was a main character on Star Trek Voyager,
where he was called the Doctor.
Yes, not Picard. That was Patrick Stewart.
No, I'm sure it helped him get the job though.
I'm sure he walked in with the name Picardo, and they went, you know what? Something about you just feels right. Something about you just feels Star Trek.
And they must not have watched Explorers also.
He also looks like he could be Patrick Stewart's brother, right? They're both similar looking bald dudes. You know, if you told me they were related, I'd believe you.
The noses are so different.
The noses?
Yeah, that's a defining feature of a person.
What?
They may be cousins. You know, they could have like what is it, the Miguel Ferrer and George Clooney thing.
Okay. Never noticed a nose in my life. I don't see noses. They're just avoiding your face where the nose is.
I've seen a woman who has no nose, and she does like literally have just a void there, a black void. It's like looking at a beautiful skull.
Wouldn't you cover it up?
Well, yeah, like she has like a prosthetic nose, but then it was like a YouTube thing that was recommended to me, like my true beauty, and then she's like, I just take it off. And she just has like this black void in the middle of her face. It's wild.
That's weird. Okay. Yeah. Okay, well, moving on. So they have to trust Janice a bit. Magic gives her a little bit of free reign to sort of join the team and help because she wrote a thesis on time loops or something. And it's funny because Jen is like constantly worried about what we're worried about, is that they're going to do the bullshit thing where this is all part of her plan. And she even says that line, she's like, well, this is all part of her plan. And I'm like, no, don't do it. Although Magic points out, like, everything Jen lists that she's worried about Janice doing, I'm like, she's technically already done all those things.
Yeah.
So maybe she'll gain their trust. I don't know. Maybe Addison and Janice will become the best of friends.
That seems to be where it's going.
They're going to be gal pals.
If I'm reading the Matrix code correctly.
Yeah. Jen's going to get jealous. She's like, why am I the odd one out? Now, why am I like, I'm stuck with Ian all day, and you two are off doing your, ice cream lunch dates and other things.
Something almost jogged the point I had earlier, but it's still
ice cream. I'll keep talking about ice cream. Clearly, that's what's triggered the memory.
I think it was something to do with the project stuff.
Okay. Ice cream lunch. That's like a thing too. Platonic women friends do, isn't it?
An ice cream lunch? Oh yeah.
They go for ice cream.
My girlfriends and I go for ice cream lunch all the time.
Absolutely.
Talk about boys.
Even
nails, periods.
Wait, in your 30s, you're still talking about boys?
I don't have friends. This is just what I imagine that they do.
You can talk to me about boys if you want, Tara.
Thank you.
And those other things too, if we must. But anyway, so no, I mean, the Janice stuff was mostly fun. I mean, I complained about the ending. I hate the cliffhanger because it just feels like a cheap TV hook, and I feel like there's smarter ways to do it that feel more earned, and I just think this is like going back to like basics that feel really outdated. Yes, please.
I got it. I blame Westworld. Now, I haven't watched a lot of as much TV as you, but I think Westworld season 1 was just like every episode was a mystery, was a puzzle that Reddit and all these forums were just like exploding with all these theories and stuff. So I blame Westworld for these cheap ass teases at the end of these episodes to keep the discourse going, you know?
No, I will disagree with this because
okay, it's I preface this with I haven't watched as much TV with you because I'm sure you're gonna bring up Lost or some other thing I haven't seen. I mean, yet.
No, Lost is valid. Even before Lost, you got Twin Peaks, which is a little bit before Reddit, admittedly, but like same sort of vein. No, it's not. I mean, don't get me wrong. It wants people to theorize. It's chasing the mystery hype. Don't get me wrong. It's absolutely doing that. But the way it's written is nothing like any of those. Those shows were all. They would never end an episode like this. Lost might have done it occasionally, but Lost was certainly more interesting mystery. Like Lost had more. Like the mystery in Lost is better than any of the mysteries in this show, right?
Yeah.
It just was, right?
I don't know. I haven't seen it. I assume you're right though.
And Twin Peaks is David Lynch, so that's like
But Westworld season 1, like nothing has compared to season 1 of Westworld because of the mystery, because of the everything around it, right? Like the discussions around it.
But the mystery was never just a cheap line at the end of the episode to make you go ooh and ah. If anything, I don't know if a single episode of Westworld ever ended like that. I think there was a lot of mysteries, obviously, but it all came naturally through the way it was jumping around the narrative.
But I think it's just one of those things like that was really successful because it had this conversation that kept going every week. You know, that these shows now are just like, well, we need to have something to keep the mystery going. Even though I do like the mystery, like I want to know the answer to why Ben is leaping and all this junk. But like, I think this feels like we don't have the writers that Westworld does, so we're just gonna do something so that there's something there.
Or David Lynch, obviously we don't have him. Oh, David Lynch, Quantum Leap. Oh my, that would be something. That would be something. No, I think the problem is that it's not really. The mystery in this show is basically one question, right? Fundamentally, it's one question with maybe a couple of parts, which is why did Ben leap? What's he trying to do? And who's involved? Like that's really all it is. Whereas with Westworld, Lost, and Twin Peaks, well, Twin Peaks started with a simple question, it became more. But with Lost and Westworld, especially as a point of comparison, those were like so layered with mysteries that when you were starting the show, like there were so many little hints to things that you couldn't even fathom what the questions you should be asking were. Never mind, you know, like I don't want to spoil anything, but the eventual reveal in the finale of season 1 of Westworld which was a really well done season. It's a shame that show went vastly downhill as it went on after that. But season 1's sort of wrap up in the way it brought all the threads together was really satisfying, but it also wasn't impossible to figure out. By the time you got to about episode 8 or 9 of those 10 episodes, a lot of people were starting to put it together because the pieces were there and it wasn't trying to trick the audience. Like the information was there to assemble. If you could decipher it, you could hit the nail on the head and you would get it, and it wouldn't spoil it for you. You'd feel satisfied and like rewarded when it was revealed, and you'd be like, oh, I got that. That's not what this is. The things that this is withholding from us, we just don't know because the writers are just withholding it. So we could guess what it is, but I don't think it'd be satisfying to guess that much because it's teasing it so much. Which is why that line about technology always ends up falling into the wrong hands was an exciting little line, because that actually does feel like a genuine tease. That feels like a genuine a breadcrumb that we could maybe use to figure something out. Whereas this, I'm going to name someone that told Ben to leap in the first place. Like, we don't know who she's going to say. There's not even a suspect, I would say, unless it's one of our own characters, like you said, from the future or something like that, who's leaped back and told him. Which would be exciting and interesting, don't get me wrong, but this cliffhanger still feels really just kind of cheap and lazy to me as a cliffhanger. So yeah. When they all thought he died was a good moment. Like they had the weight to it of her screaming, and then that in theory puts some weight on the ending where he might still die if he doesn't solve it by the time he's this last leap. But of course he ends up as the janitor, works with the general, and they take down Scientist Boy. Not Nicholas Hoult is what I was thinking in my head.
Oh yeah, I can see that a little bit.
Well, it's not so much that he looked like Nicholas Hoult. It's more just that he reminded me of Nicholas Hoult wearing the lab coat in like the early X-Men movies.
Okay, yeah.
I was getting those vibes from him.
He called himself a geek, and I kept thinking of the episode from the original show, the pilot episode where Sam calls himself a nerd, and like, would he say geek at this time? Like, would that be a term that was used for like this and not? Oh yeah. And not like like a circus geek or something like that. Like it wouldn't mean nerd, right?
Yeah, Joe, what's so funny about this conversation is just earlier today I recorded a collector's cut, which is one of our movie podcasts over on Mail Fuzz Movies, and it won't be out until the end of February, give or take. But we were talking about Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Out of the Shadows, because we're doing all the Turtles movies. We didn't just do that one on its own randomly. That'd be weird. But there's a scene where it feels really outdated, where someone starts like debating, like, oh, I'm not a geek, I'm a nerd, and sort of like talks about the differences between them. And I'm like, that feels like it was 10 years out of date by the time this movie came out in 2016. And basically me and David just said, oh, it's kind of funny how, yeah, geek's just kind of gone and nerds replaced it. Nerd just mean, like, whatever geek used to mean, now nerd just means it for everything. And we've just switched to nerd. So it's just funny that this has come up.
Maybe geek wouldn't apply to this still because they wouldn't have had the term nerd yet.
Yeah.
So maybe they would have had the term nerd. I don't know when nerd came around. I want to say it was more of like an 80s thing, though, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's a movie called Revenge of the Nerds from the 80s, so I mean, it was definitely around by then.
Yeah. So like maybe then, and then before that it was geek based on like the circus geek terminology. I don't know what else it would be. So maybe it's okay. Maybe it's okay. I'm glad he didn't say nerd because, if you watch the pilot episode of Quantum Leap, which I hope, people on the show have, then they would know that wouldn't have been a good word to use.
Yeah. So, oh well, I guess we're wrapping up then.
Do they have a description for the next time? Because we didn't get like a leap or anything. We
didn't get him landing in the next leap. He just tries to tell the joke about the atom splitting,
which is a good joke.
It's making me think of Biff and Back to the Future. Make it like a tree and get out of here. Make it like an atom.
That is not a good joke.
Well, it's funny when you hear it because it's like a reference to Back to the Future, but it's obviously not funny on its own. He's in 2012 next episode.
Oh, the end of the world.
Oh, and
according to the Mayans.
Yep. Do you want me to read the description?
Yeah.
Okay. Ben finds himself in 2012 in the midst of the Mendez family as they help their transgender daughter Gia, who dreams of playing on her high school basketball team. Magic and Jen discover another piece of the puzzle of why Ben leapt in the first place.
Another piece, okay.
Another piece of the puzzle, yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hopefully this is like, I think we've been, or at least I have complained a little bit about Ian's dialogue in some of this. Like they're trying to be a little too on the nose with things, rather like, doing the whole telling instead of showing thing. And I think, when you have the concept of Quantum Leap, it would be so easy to do that, to like, especially if Ben leaps into somebody who feels like they are a man on the inside, and then he actually does leap because Ben is there inside of this person. I think that would be an interesting way to tell that story. I don't know. You have the science fiction means to do it.
Yeah. I see what you're saying. And
hopefully that means that Ian will be more involved also with the leap. Not that they're transgender, but they're, I don't know. Like, it would make more sense anyway.
They're LBGTQ plus, yes, is what you're trying to say.
Yes.
Okay.
They're non-binary, I think, yeah.
Yeah, to be specific, yeah. But yeah, I know what you're trying to say. Okay. Yes, so that was next episode. As listed as February 6th, so yes, we're not breaking again, at least yet. Maybe later in the season.
Also, when we're recording, tomorrow is Groundhog Day, so maybe that's why they did this episode now.
Yeah, probably. I never remember when Groundhog Day, because it's not a thing in the UK.
It's February 2nd.
Yeah, Groundhog Day is just a thing I know from the movie Groundhog Day. Like, I couldn't even tell you what it is off the top of my head.
Do you know what it is though? Not the date.
It was the first day of something, isn't it? It's the first day of. It's not spring. It's too early for spring.
It's Puctatawny Phil comes out as a
what?
Is a groundhog. Yeah. Comes out and says if there's going to have 2 more weeks of winter or something, right?
Oh, is it? Is this marking like a countdown to the end of winter? Is that what it is?
Basically, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, that's what I think it is. Like, it's the groundhog will whisper into the mayor's ear and say if we're going to have 2 more months maybe of winter or spring, or if we're going to have
is
more
this
spring
actually
weather.
a national holiday in the US, or is it just something that's become famous to reference because of the,
I mean,
okay.
it's not like a day off, but
No,
yeah,
I know
it's an
that,
official
but-
holiday on calendars in the US.
Yeah, but like Halloween, it's like a day that's actually recognized as like a day with a name.
Yeah. Even though
Okay.
it's dumb. And the best thing to come out of it was the movie.
Well, obviously, yeah.
But like the news reporters will all like talk about it for a morning and then that'll be it.
Okay. All right. Well,
And weathermen don't take the groundhog seriously.
I just too much technology now. They can.
Though
they
I
can-
bet the groundhog has gotten better at its predictions.
Well, that's because he's probably got the weather app on his phone and he's just checking the weather for the next 2 weeks.
Exactly.
So apologies there was no classic Quantum Leap in the little break that we just had. Tara was actually moving house. You can see the background behind her is different. That
Very
plus
beige and boring.
yeah, that plus a sick dog and right before it meant that we've had a bit more limited in
A
recordings.
lot of things have been sacrificed. Yeah,
Yes.
sorry.
So we should be back on farm. Luckily, all this like turmoil happened when the show was on break. I mean, this one's a day later than it would have been, but like not by much. Yeah. But anyway, that's just to let you know why there wasn't any classic episodes in between. And hopefully you're glad the show's back and we're back and we're talking about the new Quantum Leap, warts and all. So let us know what you thought of this episode in the comments below. Like, subscribe, ding the bell for notifications. All of it helps us out. As does, of course, going over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv and supporting us over there. Or you can hit us with a super thanks on YouTube as a one-time thing if you want. And of course, it would be silly not to say, hey, Last of Us is a really good show. And I am having a fun time talking about it in my reviews every week. So go and check out that if you haven't. It's very good. Okay.
Yeah. I've been enjoying the show as well. So, and the reviews are great.
Have you actually listened to any of them?
I bet they're great.
It's like a dagger through the heart. Anyway, there you go. That's the Quantum Leap. Thank you very much once again for watching or listening, and we always appreciate it. Keep watching TV. Have you got? Welcome everyone, and welcome to Mailfuzz TV. I'm Peter, that's Tara, and we're going to talk about Quantum Leap Season 1 episode.
You've done that joke before.